Have you ever wanted to travel the world to see the sights and sounds and experience different cultures? One of the fondest memories I have is traveling with my dad through Southeast Asia. We went to Vietnam, Malaysia, and Singapore. We even went to his uncle's farm and he was 94 years old. It was one of the most emotional experiences that I've ever had. In this video, I'm going to be talking about 4 games that come from Asia. They're travel size, they're abstract, and they're really fun to play. They're games from Nepal, Japan, Korea, and Mongolia. It is a set of games called Ludos, the ancient games of Asia. They're travel worthy, they're portable, and they're very simple to teach and play. Hi, my name's Danny. I'm an avid modern board gamer from Australia who loves sharing my passion for board gaming with you, my friends, and my family. Come and join me on this journey. Hey Danny, do you want to play our board game? Sure thing, but I think I've only got time for just one game, alright? Well, this board game comes with 4 mini games in one. So I guess that technically counts as one, right? Hasami Shogi is a 2-player game where you control a Japanese samurai clan where you attempt to test your army skill in battle in a tactical, abstract game of positioning and movement. In the game, you'll control 18 samurais as you try to do one thing: form a row of 5 samurais of your own on the battlefield. If you do this, you win the game. Because your samurais have been training in for years, they can perform some pretty cool maneuvers. They can charge in a straight line vertically and horizontally, and if they're adjacent to another samurai, they can leap over them to an empty space on the other side. They can even actively enclose a line of opposing samurai colors to clear them right off the field. Think of it as a big, cool slash. By closing in big lines of samurais, you will help to weaken your opponent and open up the field for your victory. It's a game of setting your pieces in the right position to keep your army strong. What I like about Hasami Shogi is the tactical nature that the game provides. It's got a really simple rule set which is easy for you to dive your teeth right into, but there's a limitless range of different strategies you can kind of try out with each and every game. One of the really cool things about the game is the fact that you can leap over your opponent's pieces or your own pieces to try and get into a better position. What's really important about the strategy that you use in this game is because you're on this kind of central battlefield, being able to have enough samurai to cover most of the columns means that you're going to be able to prevent your opponent from exploiting some of the weak spots in your kind of army. And I really like that. It's very tactical in terms of the way you want to set up your board. It's very tactical in the way you want to approach the game in terms of trying to outmaneuver the other player. And the fact that you can kind of wedge yourself and scissor yourself so that you can kind of block in your opponent's group of samurais and get rid of them in one fell swoop means that you're trying to really make powerful moves. Rather than just going to go for one elimination, you might try and eliminate multiple pieces in one go, clearing the field. I do like the fact that there's 2 different win conditions that this game provides. So you can either have 14 samurais in your possession when the other player has less than 5 or less, and the other final thing is being able to have 5 in a row. The fact that this game has multiple win conditions means that you're constantly jostling and viewing and thinking about, ooh, I want to make 5 in a row, but I want to do it in a way where my opponent doesn't suspect how I'm setting it up. But whilst at the same time, by removing their pieces, you're pushing it towards the end game. I really feel like, whilst it's an abstract game, that feels very thematic in nature. Ute is a game originating from Korea where players race horses around a track with the aim of getting them to the finish line first. This circular-shaped racetrack has intersections that allows players to take shortcuts and possibly avoid other races. Throughout the game, players will throw these wooden casting sticks which will determine exactly how many spaces a horse can move. They function essentially as dice. Each face-up result counts as 1, so 4 face-up sticks counts as 4 movement. If all the casting sticks are ever all face down, it actually counts as 5 movement. There is a cool twist to the stick throwing mechanism. Whenever a player throws a 4 or 5, they immediately get an additional throw which they can use. As players move around the track, if they land on an opponent's horse, it sends that horse back to the start of the track. If you land on your own horse, they now move as a single stack. If your horse starts on a junction, you can then take a shortcut to the next part of the racetrack. It's a bit of a wild race, where the thrill comes as part of strategically pushing your luck to win.
There's something really especially charming about this Korean game U, and the first thing that really drew my attention in were these cool wooden dice sticks. The fact that you throw them onto the table or into a bowl and use their result to determine the number of spaces your horses can move is a really, whilst purely luck driven, has a little element of strategy to it when it comes to deciding whether you move your a horse that's already on the field further along, whether you've got a horse at a junction and you therefore take a shortcut, or you introduce a new horse to the racetrack. The fact that each player has 4 horses means that you can put out a few early horses and then wait for your opponent to put out a few extra horses before you introduce a few horses behind them. By having your horse behind the other players means that you have a greater chance of landing on them. And by having a few of those horses out on the field at the same time means that you can kind of creep up behind them and then eliminate them from the competition and force them back to the start again. I also really like the fact that you can stack your horses. By stacking your horses, especially near the end of the track, you can kind of get all your horses to the finish line at the same time. There is a risk involved with stacking your horses though, because if you do that really early on in the game and your opponent captures your horse stack, then all those horses go back to the beginning. So there is a little bit of a risk versus reward element to the game itself. I also like that when you throw these dice sticks, if you get a 4 or 5, which means they're all face up or face down, you get to rethrow them again. And the fact that by rethrowing them, you can either add your sums together or you can split it up amongst 2 different horses, means you've got a little bit of extra flexibility for rolling those higher numbers. Not only that, if you do capture your opponent's horse, you also get a rethrow as well. This does kind of remind me of that game of Ludo where you kind of have the 4 different colors, you're going around the board and trying to get to the end first, but this is kind of a more interesting twist to it with the little shortcuts that are involved as well as the dice throwing stick mechanism. This just feels very gratifying to play and really fun and really quick to get into.
Jamo is an abstract game that has you attempting to move your archers into your enemy camp by travelling along these lines like some dot-to-dot puzzle. Throughout each game, players will control 5 archers who can ultimately flip over and become promoted to guards. You will take it in turn to move a piece along a connected line. If you land on your opponent's piece, they are captured and your archer flips over to become a guard. That is one agile archer. If you move your guards into your opponent's camp, you can recover one of your captured pieces and redeploy it. You win if you capture all of your opponent pieces, or you fully move all of your pieces into the other player's camp. This game really feels like you're skidding around, dodging arrows and making cool maneuvers.
Jamo is a fascinating game that is disguised by its simplicity. I really like the asymmetric board, and depending on which side you're playing, the configuration of the network is slightly different. That kind of invites for some different geographical spatial movement strategies that you can use from round to round. I also like the fact that if you are an archer and you capture an opponent's piece, your archer can be upgraded, and then that upgraded piece, when it reaches the opposing camp, you can then redeploy and regain back a piece that has been recaptured on a previous turn, thereby recycling and reusing some of the pieces that have been eliminated from the game. That kind of helps to even out the game a lot more, and I know in games like chess where if one player is so strong that they're able to remove a lot of your opponent's pieces, then that player kind of has a huge advantage in terms of winning the game. But here, being able to get your piece back and redeploying it means that you can kind of catch up and even the playing field a little bit more. I also like the fact that there's 3 different endgame conditions, and having those 3 endgame conditions means that there's a variety of situations that kind of can lead to that endgame trigger. It might be the fact that both players do the same moves 2 times in a row, and it all comes down to the points. Having a soldier means you'll get 2 points, and having an archer means you'll have 1 point. Or it might be simply just eliminating the other player altogether, which is tricky to do because sometimes the other player has a soldier that can move into your camp and then reclaim one of their pieces again. And that kind of happens a little bit more frequently once some of the pieces are removed from the board, because the board essentially frees up. We've also got the situation where you can move all of your pieces on the board into your opponent's camp, triggering the end of the game and scoring points based on the value of your tokens. I love the sense that there isn't just one simple way to finish, but there's actually 3 different paths that this game can take you down. And
Gile is a game that has a very distinct predator-prey-like feel to it. You're either on the hunt or the one being hunted. The game plays out in 2 phases. In the first, if you are the tiger player, you'll begin on the corners of the game board. If you are the goat player, you'll try and place your goat strategically each turn so that the tigers can't jump over you. Each goat that the tiger captures is a point for the tigers, and if they capture 5 goats, they automatically win. You'll alternate turns by placing, jumping, and applying your most strategic moves, as once the goat players put out all of their pieces, it's dinner time. In the second phase, the goat player must try and trap the tigers so that they have no legal moves left. It's a cat and mouse style situation, except the cat is the tiger and the goat is the goat.
Gile is a beautiful 2-player abstract game that has a low rules overhead. It's really easy to teach and relatively simple to get into. However, it is a little bit deceptive in nature. It's a very tactical abstract game that does require repeated plays in order to develop and refine your strategy. What I really like about the game is the fact that it's in 2 phases. In the first phase, if you're the goat player, you're placing your goats out in strategic positions. If you are the tiger player, you're trying to eat as many of those goats as possible, because the more that you eat, the more advantages you're going to have in the second half of the game. So the first half of the game has consequential and very powerful impacts on the second half. What I really like about this game is the fact that playing as either of the animals feels very, very different. You kind of have that sense that you're being chased by the tiger. You're on the hunt. Or if you are the tiger, you're kind of prowling in the bushes, waiting for that correct moment to strike. I really love the to and fro and the asymmetric nature of this abstract game. And I've noticed that over many, many plays, my strategy has changed, it's become more refined, and I often have a better understanding of how to set up the pieces on the board or set up my moves to protect my tigers if I'm the tiger player, and also to fill up the space appropriately if I'm the goat player. It's a really, really great game that has a beautiful charm to it, and it's one that is absolutely a delight to play. So, what did you think of the 4 games that are featured in this collection? What is your rank? Which of these appeals to you most? Have you played any of them, or are they on your radar? A lot of these games are actually accessible currently online because they are adaptations of games that already exist out there. So what is really cool about this campaign is the fact that these 4 games are being resurrected, they're being saved, and they're being kept alive so that modern audiences can really appreciate where board game design and cultural influences come from, and that's what makes this package super special. Thank you once again for joining me for another Board Game Sanctuary video. If you really appreciate and like the content that I make, please head over to my Patreon page and support me there. This helps to keep the channel alive. You get to access exclusive Patreon-only videos, as well as have some say over the direction of future videos on this channel. Otherwise, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, and I hope your next board game experience is an amazing one.